Right, okay. So I had a topic on my desk, thank you. I had a topic on my desk that I wrote down the other day, and it's about the fact that you can't wear my shoes. And a lot of times people have a tendency to think that, we've heard a lot, like walk in somebody else's shoes. And really, can you? I have a narrow heel, I just want to warn you. And I have narrow little feet. You know the baby pictures, or not the baby pictures, but in the old, and I'm dating myself, but my birth certificate, you know, when they do the print of the foot and the little hands, well, my feet look like little sticks. Because they're very narrow, but mine full-figured, so figure that one out. Anyway, so then we have all kinds of shoes. You know, we have boots, we have pumps. Sorry, Ron, you probably haven't worn a pump, but and I don't. She's always in heels, so she doesn't count. And we have heels, and we have all kinds of shoes. And you notice when you use them a little while, you have depressions in the shoe that's really conformed to your foot. You know, life is like that. It conforms a lot for each of us because of our patterns and because of our histories and because of our attitudes, and so much comprises that. And then you have shoes that are like sandals, and then sometimes they fit well and sometimes they don't. And sometimes you've learned, come on up here if you would.
Thank you.
And if are you new here?
Yeah.
And we're just, come on. Thank you. We're very small today, and so I requested to be down here. And normally somebody would be up here, and it's much more formal. However, there's a different speaker every week, so please stay tuned because the management changes. Is that I'm speaking about shoes and how our lives conform just as our shoes do to our feet. And then when we're little, as in like maybe kindergarten, preschool, first grade, they often take the plaster casts of our little hands and sometimes our little feet. And in Grauman's theater, in the Chinese theater in Hollywood, where they take the footprints, and it's usually in a shoe. But I think they really ought to do the barefoot, right in the concrete, don't you think? That would be interesting. Mm-hmm. So all of our lives, we learn that we should walk in another person's shoes. And it's said to us when we're very little, that we don't understand or that we think we do. But you can never fit in my shoes the way I do, and I can't fit in yours. There is a thing in life that we have. We understand something in this religion and philosophy about natural law. And natural law is not an absolute. It's not something that you have to believe just this way, and if you don't believe just this way, it doesn't work. That's not it. For everyone, they wear shoes. And what those shoes indicate is a set of laws in your universe, yours, all of us. And we have our own laws that we operate with. The term natural law to me gives us a righteousness. Now, that doesn't mean better than or superiority. Please don't hear that. But what it does provide is a rightness of our actions and our behavior, our thinking and our feeling, our ability to adapt when there are challenges or when there are occurrences that cause us sadness, grief, anger, any kind of emotion that takes us out of sorts, so to speak, or ruffles the energy of all that is in our lives. So we have these shoes that we're wearing constantly. And I know that every so often there are a pair of shoes that I don't want to give up. And yet the shoes have kind of given up. Have you done that? Yes. Yeah. Well, and sometimes, and then there's the duct tape. Sometimes people like to repair with duct tape. And we do that a lot with our emotions. We do that a lot with our mental clarity and understanding. And we do that a lot with ourselves in trying to be the best we know how to be. And it's often based upon our past. Our past is important, but our past isn't who we are right this moment. Reverend Eloise Page, an incredibly eloquent natural law teacher in Casadega, very, very able to express about the laws, very capable of interpreting them in her life, as well as giving all of us who studied with her opportunity to explore them, an opportunity to enhance our lives because of them. And the beauty of it was she would always say, you have this moment. You don't have yesterday. You don't have 10 years ago. And some of you don't have 40 years ago. But what you do have is this moment. So this moment allows you all that you are. And the incredible thing with spiritualism, in my opinion, is that we understand life after death. We understand the continuity of existence. We understand that the soul goes on forever. And what that comprises and what that means to each of us is an individual thing. It is not some absolute standard that you have to understand or conform to. It allows you to embrace the idea, the awareness, and to explore it in your own way. I've talked a lot in the past, so I will repeat this. Our minds have a way of reacting to life like that. And the first way is often defensiveness and self-preservation. It's the very first way that any human quite often will take anything that is said to them, anything that is done, and it's universal in many ways. The second way the mind can react and respond is consistency, where it looks for consistency. Jeannie has been very gracious today letting me sit here, and I mean that very respectfully, because this is a church, and wanting it to present and produce it with a dignity and a respect for it. And the thing that happens, though, is she has me here, and I'm much more casual because mine is connecting with everybody as the church does and as the intention of spiritualism does. And so it's to embrace it all. The third way the mind reacts and responds is exploration and discovery. It's discovering your next thought. It's discovering what is next ahead. It's exploring the fact that there's more life and how to produce more life, not based upon who you've known and not based upon your old shoes that have that conformed inner soul that is really well conditioned so your foot and toes fit perfectly in it. It may be to try on a new pair of inner soles. It may be, you get it, inner soul? I just but it may be to allow yourself to explore something a little different. It doesn't mean that you have to change your hairdo. It doesn't mean that you have to change your clothes. It's not anything like that. It's what's in here. It's the allowance that you give to yourself to explore more of all that is. The isness of life, the infinite intelligence we speak of, that divine presence isn't just out here. It's pervasive. It's in this. It's in that, the carpet. It's in you. It's in me. It's in this thing called space and the air we breathe. And so in exploration of life, you get to see the new opportunities and the new potentials and the new experiences, the new shoes that you are constantly going to wear in this life and in this embodiment until your last breath. And the exploration of that, the discovery in it, allows you to embrace new awareness and new understanding all the time. Does it mean you have to change who you are? What you do is you get to discover more of who I am, more about me. And it's not all just life about me. It's about us, and it's about the world, and it's about the universe. And it's bringing it in instead of pushing it out, trying to keep everything consistent. Our world is changing. Our country is changing constantly. we're having all kinds of things pressure us, stress us, push, push, push. And people are trying to keep up, keep up, keep up. And sometimes that's not always easy. And sometimes that's like having an old pair of shoes that are all scuffed and bothered, and you want to polish them up or fix them up, and then there's that duct tape thing. And the opportunities that we have are unlimited. We often don't feel that, though. We can feel a restriction. We can feel a limitation. And remember the statement about you have this moment? Well, this moment that I mentioned a while ago is now that moment. Got it? So you have this moment now that becomes that moment in another 10 moments, doesn't it? Isn't this fun? So we have a whole bunch of this moments in our life. And those moments are tied end to end, creating you and creating who you are. And not all based upon who you were 5 years ago or 5 minutes ago. You can have a new insight at any moment. You can have a new realization at any time. You can begin to understand something or somebody or some relationship or some job or something. Any moment you can have a news flash come into you going, oh, new awareness, new sensation. Behind every physical sense that you possess, you have a psychic or intuitive sense. You have an ability to feel, to see, to sense, to smell, to hear. And you have also what I call that feeling place, that is that knowingness place, that can't be shaken up, that you can squelch it just by your own insecurity or uncertainty. And that is human. So we have these shoes, and you can't fit into mine. And it's important that you understand you're never going to fit in somebody else's as well as you fit in your own. Shoes, it's just an example. But quite often we're searching, and quite often we're wanting, and quite often we're really, really hoping that things are going to be different. And often we are wanting and hoping for things to be different outside of us so that we can handle what's going on within. So it's a community project quite often because it's both. It's both out here and both in here. And how that occurs is the fact that, remember I said, you don't have to change anything about you. But what you get to do is add to who you are. Add to what you think you are. Add to how you see life. Add to, and that's an expansion. Life is ever expanding while we're in a body. Ever expanding. It may not seem like it, it may not always feel like it, and yes, it is. And the beauty of that is the fact that we understand a lot about life after death. But it's important that we handle life as it is while we're here. And while we're here, we can make the most of it because when you are born, you have a gazillion, that's a pretty big amount, isn't it, gazillion? You have an unlimited amount of potentials that are out before you. And they are almost attached to the soul, like little tendrils. So when you think something's just coming to you, it may be one of those tendrils that you were born with, that you are suddenly in the flow with it, and you know the words in the flow? In the flow is often when it feels like, yes, or you, I call it the dominoes fall down. It's like one thing happens, the next thing occurs, the next thing occurs. Well, not everything in our lives is going to be easy. But remember when I mentioned about consistency? We're all looking for it. We're all hoping for it. And we're all wanting it, especially in this day and age. And it's harder and harder to find. Where it is in money. If people have a certain amount of money, they feel secure. But that changes, doesn't it? Our needs change, our expenses change, economy changes. So it's to have that sense of security within, no matter what. To always know that you're taking the steps to make what it takes, and you will. And it's to know these things, not just to affirm them and hope, but to know that you can take steps. The beauty of the spiritualist religion is to me that it isn't just a religion. The beauty of it to me is the philosophy and the science. Those are the two parts that I love, because I'm not a ritual person, because ceremonies kind of go out the window with me because I start laughing. And it's with no disrespect. It's just the fact of feeling lighthearted and playful. And it doesn't quite fit in somber and sanctimoniousness sometimes. So I have to sit in the back of the room. However, walk in my shoes, you can't. And that's the incredible part. So it's allowing the differences, allowing them, and accepting what is in any situation, in any circumstance, in any job, in any relationship, in anything we're experiencing. When we can accept what is, then we can get to what may be. We can't get to what may be if we're holding on to what we think should be happening. And it's so easy to do that because that's based upon our past. There should be more people here today. All of you are here, and this is precious. And all of you with me, we comprise a relationship that allows for the expansion of each of us in our own ways. You may expand because of lunch. Well, they usually have a good one. And you may expand because of something somebody else says, or an insight that you have because of some moment of quiet and healing. It does not matter. What matters most is the fact that you recognize you are not on this plane of existence to wear anybody else's shoes but your own. And those sometimes can get worn out like old attitudes, old hates, old angers, old disappointments, because maybe you're now into that acceptance of what is. And you're recognizing the statement, it is what it is not doom and gloom and a finality. It's a moment. And it's a moment of accepting, and it's a moment of then participating. One more thing to talk about with this is your purpose and intention for all things. I mentioned about natural law because of its rightness. The rightness that you feel about it, the rightness that you explore with it in your own understanding of it, has a lot to do with your acceptance. And it has a lot to do with how you perceive it in looking back on experiences, not how you're viewing it looking forward. The understanding of natural law can feel absolute because we're often looking back on consequence of our choices from time to time. But how about the purpose and intention of today, of the next moment, of 1 o'clock this afternoon, and all the other plans that you may have? Some people already have their plans for the Christmas holidays. I don't. Some people already know they're going on a cruise in February because I'm carrying their luggage. Some people know what they're going to do next summer. Some people have a plan for retiring or moving, making a change. None of those things are wrong. But one thing happens with purpose and intention for each of us. If you have a dream, if you have a goal, if you have a plan of something, and it might be minor. I mean, mine was just to vacuum the living room yesterday. Is that how can you stay with it if you don't focus on the purpose and intention of what you want? So it's wanting, and sometimes those shoes that we're wearing, you can't wear mine. I don't think you'd want to. These are falling apart, but I didn't get the duct tape out yet. But it's important for you to understand that the next thing you get to do today, the next plan or dream that you have for tomorrow, whether it's healing of the body, whether it's a relationship issue, whether it's a job situation or a family issue as well, whether you feel overwhelmed with life, and I'm sure none of you do, is to remember that it's step by step, moment to moment, and don't worry about the big stuff. Pay attention to what you're doing and the purpose and intention of each breath and each moment. And as you do that, you begin to open up to your own intuitive capability of being in the flow of your own life, and the shoes that you will wear and the shoes I will wear will constantly be ours because we're paying full attention and we're not allowing ourselves to be pivoted, thinking we have to do it somebody else's way or we have to walk in their shoes, but we can walk beside them. And that's the greatest compassion that we've ever seen historically in humanity. It's about purpose and intention. With anything we do, and the laws of your universe will always be the purpose and intention you provide to live by them. Always. And I thank you so much.